What's up, everyone? Thralls here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have an album review for you. So, one that was definitely on our radars because, well, we're giant Cannibal Corpse fans.
Yep.
We love this guy. Was the new album from Corpsegrinder, simply called Corpsegrinder. Unfortunately, it's not on Corpsegrinder Records, otherwise we have this trifecta completed.
Corpsegrinder square, no. What's the third?
Vector
So the
quadrant.
third power math.
Niner. All of that is grossly wrong, and you're all aware that we're not good with math now. But we definitely wanted to go over this one because we're giant fucking fanboys. This comes out also on the 25th of February on Perseverance Music Group, which is actually Jamie Josta's label, which Jamie Josta definitely has a huge part in this. I guess he was the one that really told Corpsegrinder, hey, you should just do a solo album. And he was like, okay, let's just do that. And pretty much that is how this formed. I guess it kind of started last year or maybe in 2020.
Somewhere in there. I remember they first started talking about it, I think early 2021 maybe.
Probably about the time those Respect the Neck t-shirts started coming out, and I kind of want to get one.
I do too.
Because they're awesome. So needless to say, of course, this features Corpsegrinder, legendary vocalist, Suckett Barnes. But this also is essentially produced and features the Belmore brothers, Nick and Charlie. Nick is on drums, Charlie is on guitar and bass, and this was co-produced by Nick and Jamie Josta, and I believe some of this might have been written with Jamie Josta because, well, all right. A good chunk of this is definitely death metal, but this is also sort of that death metal hardcore hybrid, a little bit of thrash in there. But for those that are going into this expecting Cannibal Corpse,
Ain't gonna happen. Yep. Opens up with the song Acid Vat, which again is the single that's been released. It has Eric Rutan on guitars. Here you kind of get the idea that it's early 90s death metal mixed with hardcore, mixed with a little bit of thrash, and that's kind of where we're at.
Stir, and there it is.
Yep.
And Corpsegrinder is growling his guts out, delivering pretty much what you expected from him. And, I mean, expectations, I don't know about this one. Like, I wasn't sure. Like, this was one of those, like, all right, we have heard Corpsegrinder belt out fucking all sorts of violence and hostility through Cannibal Corpse, even back in Monstrosity in the early albums. But on his own, I really wasn't sure. Because in Cannibal Corpse, he really doesn't write a lot of the lyrics. That's mostly Paul and Alex that write a lot of the lyrics.
Well, and he's got, I mean, with Cannibal Corpse, it's kind of like a one-track thing. Just brutal death growls, which is great. But you get to hear him take on different kinds of cadences, like in the song On Wings of Carnage. First of all, musically, you just get these big old meaty double kick drums. The overall song takes on kind of like a Chimera feel, kind of like in the realm of like Impossibility of Reason. It just has that kind of feel to it, and as far as like vocal cadences are concerned, it just reminds me of how a song like that would flow.
And that even comes down to the production, too. The production has that sort of like mid-2000s metalcore sort of sound.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's kind of cool. Like, I still like that sound. I prefer things a little bit grittier, but it's kind of cool, like, hearing something that he's on that wasn't, produced by Eric Rutan as well.
Sure.
But, again, it's different, but also kind of good. Like, death is the only key. Slow, brooding, ugly sort of banger with like really sludgy riffs in there. But it's interesting because you have that hardcore bounce, that groove that's in there, coupled with these really like death metal riffs. And there was part of me that was like, you know what? I can almost see George move on stage other than the windmill thing.
Right, other than doing hair whips and like yelling at people, I could kind of see him like bouncing a little bit,
yeah,
grooving or leading,
maybe
like
stomping on the stage.
Yeah, stomping, maybe leading like a fist pump thing.
And then towards the end of the album, you get songs that are maybe like a little bit more dark and sinister. Like, again, not flat out brutal. Of course, they're still aggressive because all the people involved in this like aggressive music.
Sure.
But they take on like, again, more of a dark atmospheric vibe. Master of the Longest Night, which I have no fucking clue what that is about, but I like this sort of dreary atmosphere and these really creepy, dissonant riffs that go into it. The chorus, which repeats that long title, which, again, I don't know what it is.
I think the chorus of that song kind of takes away from the the verse grooves, because those verse grooves are sick.
Oh, there's some big syncopated chugs in there that are just fucking disgusting.
Like a kick drum stutter, and you're like, man, all right.
And then Vaguely Human kind of throws in a little bit of that Blackened Distance, but also like a big thrashy vibe. And thrash is kind of here and there, like it's usually in the riffs, but when it comes down to tempo, this album is mostly just groove forward.
Yes.
Like they're steady 4/4 time groovy headbangers, maybe like a bolt thrower, like double time stomp.
Maybe.
But most of the time, you're just grooving. So it's kind of cool to hear it kind of broken up like that. But if you want like the full tilt aggression, probably the heaviest track on here, All Souls Get Torn, and we ain't talking about shoes here. He liked that one when I said it before, too. This song right here is almost death grind right from the rip.
Almost. Yep.
Blast beats, dirty tremolo riffs, big stomping grooves, chuggy riffs in here. I mean, the hooks on this song are absolutely awesome. And honestly, it is the most straightforward, brutal song on this album.
I agree. Those accented hits in between the choruses, the boom, 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 blah.
Heavy. But, all right, the overall thing on this album, and it was something that we kind of came across early on, it feels like death metal for people that aren't necessarily into death metal.
Yeah, like, I think this is going to be maybe a gateway for the kids that haven't gotten to death metal yet, but are still in just like a meat and potatoes, like groove metal thing, but with a death metal vocalist, like with an actual death metal vocalist.
And the vocals are, I mean, it's still Corpsegrinder 100%.
It is. There's no denying it. There's absolutely no denying who that is.
But musically, I mean, all right, the guys that help compose this aren't necessarily like death metal freaks. I know the Belmore brothers actually spent some time in Toxic Holocaust, but they, that's thrash and a little bit different vibe, but it's still aggressive. And you get that sort of like thrashy aggressiveness occasionally on here.
But it's very few and far between.
But yeah, a lot of this kind of sounds like Hatebreed. In fact, the song Bottom Dweller,
dude, literally Hatebreed.
If you took out Corpsegrinder's vocals and you put Jamie Joss on that, you would have a very heavy, pretty good Hatebreed song.
Yep.
But it's the fact that Corpsegrinder's on there, and the way he's doing his cadences, it almost just sounds like Jamie Joss there with a much different voice.
Well, it sounds like Corpsegrinder is the guest vocalist for 10 different bands. 10 different, like, hardcore metalcore bands.
Like 5 different bands.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is a really obvious thing. And it was something that I picked up on really early on. Again, Bottom Dweller, I think that's like the second track.
Yep.
But you even hear a little bit on Acid Vat. But unfortunately, it kind of gets stuck in this kind of hardcore rut, like towards the end of the album. Crimson Proof aspires to be like a big thrashy banger, but I don't know, like it's just short. The riff that carries that thrashy section isn't particularly interesting.
Mm-mm.
And then there's this weird atmospheric shift at the end, like this weird transition, like all of a sudden it gets very lush for a second, then it closes on Hatebreed breakdown.
Well, yeah, it seems like it's gonna get heavy, and then it kind of pusses out almost. And ends up in like this, again, Hatebreed. It actually reminded me of like a lackluster Killswitch Engage breakdown. Like,
And then Defined by Your Demise and Devourer of Souls, again, still not talking about shoes, not very interesting. In fact, the fact that they're back to back, they really just kind of bleed into each other because they're both doing kind of the same thing.
I didn't really know what to expect, and I didn't really know what I was going to get, but I kind of knew what I was going to get.
Kind of in the same boat. Like with this, I kind of wanted to hear Corpsegrinder step outside, maybe try some different things, like maybe just some like Blackened Shrieks or something like that, or a flat out Death Doom song, or I don't know. But this, it really just kind of hit like cruising altitude really early on in the album,
and stayed there.
And really stayed there. Like honestly, I kind of perked back up around Master of the Longest Night, but the 3 tracks that preceded it, man, I was like, oh man, this is just kind of generic, kind of by the numbers, and I don't know why they would feel the need to play it safe for George's sake. That dude knows how to do brutal.
Yeah, right, exactly. He's fully capable of a lot of things, so Why hold back on the music? I mean, it's just meat and potatoes. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing either.
No.
We were talking about this earlier, like, you remember when Death Clock came out and a bunch of people got into some really cool music based on that show.
Fucking show ruled.
Right.
Fucking albums ruled.
Yeah, the albums ruled. I mean, it was great for what it was, and I feel like that's kind of what this is, but they kind of skimped on the music too.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get a lot of solos on here. The harmonies are okay. I mean, there's some big fucking riffs on here. There are some giant ones, and there are some like more brutal songs for the Cannibal Corpse fans going in this just to hear, you know,
Sure.
potentially their favorite singer might still be Barnes. I don't know.
It's not.
It might be,
It's
but
not.
it's probably not. But yeah, most of it is kind of tamed, but at the same time, I could really appreciate this for who gets into it. Like if they're
course.
not into death metal,
Yep.
like this is a great gateway
Yep.
drug into it.
I agree. I like it for that simple fact that it may open up more doors for making death metal a little bit more accessible at this point.
Not too accessible.
Not too accessible, but I mean, like, this is going to be, you know, if you've got a friend that's, oh yeah, hey, Brady, it's good, try this.
Yeah.
You know?
So pretty much none of the music is as brutal as Corpsegrinder's voice, but it's pretty decent.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was thinking about whether or not this was really a necessary release. Like, does Corpsegrinder really need a solo album to tout his vocal prowess? Because believe me, we fucking know.
Right.
But at the same time, if it was a chance just to do something fun with some different people, you know, hey, that's awesome that he got to go out there and do that. And the album cover is fucking sick and ridiculous.
Right.
I fucking love it.
Yep. I hope there's a t-shirt with that exact picture on it.
Yeah, but I'm going to get the Respect the Neck one because I respect the neck.
I do.
And
hell of a neck.
Yeah, I like this. This is okay. So I'm going to give it 3 stars. It's not the greatest thing on the planet, but it's still good. And again, I appreciate it for what it could potentially do in terms of broadening death metal and getting a whole new subset into it, because fucking Corpsegrinder is a very likable guy. Like, you see him on every metal publication just doing something cool, whether it's the claw machines and donating toys.
Yep.
And I mean, if you've ever had the pleasure of seeing Cannibal Corpse live, you know he's a fucking hell of a front man, and he can out headbang everybody. Like,
Agreed.
He wins there. So yeah, it's just kind of cool seeing him do something fun, and I appreciate it for the fun's sake. Musically, it's okay. I kind of get stuck in one gear, but you know, it's not terrible at all. And I would say definitely check it out, and you know, respect the fucking neck.
I'm in the same boat. It's a 3. It's not great, but it's definitely not bad. And like you said, you know, if it's a chance to do something cool with some of your other buddies and something you wouldn't normally do, great. I definitely give it respect based on the fact that, like we said, I think it's a gateway album, and I think it's going to open up some cool doors that may not have been open to people before. Normally, I don't like, you know, have really, really accessible music like this, but I mean, it's Corpsegrinder, and I fucking love Corpsegrinder. He's, like, you know, Nick said, a hell of a dude, and that right there is worth its weight in gold. It was fun, but it's nothing too great, but it wasn't terrible.
There's nothing wrong with it just being a good album. I mean, honestly, I think he did it for fun's sake, and, well, I mean, fun is something we're all for here. So, you go, George. It's fucking cool. So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there will be a link down below. We also have a giveaway going on.
Woo!
Once we hit 10,000 subscribers, which is still just...
It's still mind-blowing. I still can't...
I know.
I can't fathom it.
It's
I really
wild.
can't. I didn't think...
But we will be giving away a t-shirt and a $100 gift card to Bandcamp, as well as a limited pressing of the last Alien Weaponry album, because we can and we want to, because you guys fucking rule, and it is just awesome doing this. And for those of you that would like to order a shirt, there will be a link down below to our Shopify. I'm still foggy on what that is, but it's a place where you can shop.
We have a Thrall. So if you go to Thralls of Metal, www.thrallsofmetal.com, it'll take you to an actual like web store thing that we have now, where you can just click on something and we'll send it to you.
Yeah.
No more hassle of email for shirts. So that's something really neat.
Yeah, what he said. Much easier than what I said. But Thank you all very much once again for watching, and we will catch you later.